Hi, everybody. It's Brittany here. I want to thank you guys for coming and joining me for my second training video today. Today we'll be going over what in the world is ABA. Before we start, I want to just mention a few things. First, I am not a BCBA or a BCBAD. I have not completed my coursework, so I cannot provide ABA services to you or your family. I can, however, coach you and teach you the different terminologies to ABA and help you guys better understand the therapy itself. Also, I'd like to mention that ABA, there is a lot going on in ABA. I don't know it all because I am a grad student. If you guys want more information on and a full detailed explanation on ABA, the best thing to do is look into a graduate school program and see if that's something that you'd be interested in learning. So without further ado, let's get into our training today. So what is ABA? And you'll see me going from screen to screen today, guys, because I dual screened it. Still can't figure out how to share my screen and myself at the same time. If anybody knows how to do that, please add it in the comments, and I will make sure to do that next time. So what is ABA? ABA is applied behavioral analysis. It is the science of human behavior, and we say that the father of ABA is B.F. Skinner. He's written most of the behavioral text that we follow, both human behavior and verbal behavior. The goals of ABA are to make people's lives better by changing socially significant behaviors. Everything that is done in ABA is science and evidence-based. So nothing's going to be thrown around willy-nilly. Everything has research, data to back it up. So who are the people that can provide services to your child and your family? As I stated, I'm not one of them. Sorry, guys. I hope to be one day. But the people who can provide your family services are a board-certified behavioral analyst or a doctoral degree in the same field. Both individuals have to have at least a master's. The BCBAD is required to have their doctorate. They have to complete 1,000 hours to 1,500 hours of field experience in the field of ABA. And they also have to pass the BCBA board exam. This is an extremely difficult exam, and I think it's something like one in 3 pass, and that's it. Other individuals that you might see at a clinic are a board-certified assistant behavioral analyst, or you might see what is known as a QASP. They are a qualified autism service practitioner. Most of the time you won't see a QASP, but you will see a BCABC or BCABA. Sorry, there's a lot of acronyms. So for these qualifications, they have to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree in a field that is consistent with ABA. They have to complete ABA coursework. They also have to pass an exam, and they have to do a minimum of 500 to 750 hours of field experience. They're also under the supervision of a BCBA or a BCBAD. They cannot practice alone. The final group of people that you'll see at an ABA clinic are the foot soldiers in a way. Those are going to be your registered behavioral technicians or line therapists. These people are people who have completed 40 hours of training in applied behavioral analysis. This is either done in person or online. They have to pass a competency assessment. And they also need to pass a background check and an exam to be able to serve. Finish our discussion on who can serve you in the ABA field. And now I was going to go and discuss the things that you will see in ABA at the ABA clinic. So there are a lot of different things that you could see at a clinic, but some of the big ones you're going to see are pairing, natural environment training, or incidental teaching. You will also see discrete trial training and verbal behavior training, and also behavior management and behavioral change plans. Sorry I lost you guys. I'm glad you're back on. I don't know what happened to my internet. But to continue on, so what's pairing? Pairing is making a clinician making themselves a reinforcer. What that means is they are the giver of good things. They're going to be the ones playing with the child and teaching them. And we want them to build a good rapport because it's essential to doing everything else that you will see in the clinic. Pairing is child-led. So if they want to play in blocks, we're going to play in blocks. If they want to go play race cars, we'll do race cars. We learn a lot about the child during pairing, including their verbal capabilities. We learn what their interests are. We learn what we can use to reinforce them. And also we learn if we have become a reinforcer or not. Pairing is done when a client is new to an RBT or vice versa, or they're new to a clinic. Also, at the beginning of every single session, you're going to see your child walk in and go hang out and go play with their therapist for a while. And that's to make sure that rapport is still there. Also, in the middle of the sessions, they're going to stop and play with the child as well to just keep building on that relationship. And also, we do it too when we are not getting compliance from a child or the child is avoiding us. So if the child is avoiding their therapist, that means that they're not properly paired and you are not the giver of good things, you are the taker. And we don't want to be the taker of good things. So natural environment training and incidental teaching are also child-led. These are going to be in the environment where the child is going to use the skills. So this also is used to teach a lot of our language skills and our social skills. So if your child is outside playing and they really want you to push them in the swing, then we try to get them to request push. And that's working on their language skills. And we're also teaching them at the same time to demand or request to be pushed. Discrete trial training is generally what people think ABA is. Discrete trial training is not all of ABA, but it is it's used all the time in ABA. What this does is it uses those verbal behaviors that we talked about last week. If you need a refresher, my video is still up there, so go ahead and take a look. It also teaches things like imitation skills or receptive instruction skills. So that's like, hey, go get your shoes. So they can hear it and they know how to follow the instruction. Receptive identification would be like putting a couple different items on the table and say point to the apple. So this is how we teach mastery of certain skills to children. And we also use what's called airless teaching during discrete trial training. What airless teaching is not giving the child the opportunity to fail. So before we know they're going to give a wrong answer, we give them the right answer. They are not given a chance to fail. So what an example of DTT might look like. And because my child isn't here today, he's actually at school, which is awesome. You'll have to just kind of watch me pretend like I'm talking to you and you're answering. So it would be like, do this. Show me hands up. What's that? That is an apple. What shape is it? That's right, it is a square. Which one do you write with? That's right, you write with the pencil. Say, boy. Great job, friend. So that is an example of what discrete trial training would look like with our kids. It's very fast-paced. So I was a bit slow, but I was trying to show you guys without making the screen go all crazy. It's very fast-paced. You want to be very enthusiastic. You want to make sure that the child is enjoying what you're doing, and just don't want to be boring, because who wants to sit there and have cards shoved in their face over and over again when it's not fun? I know if I feel bored, a child feels bored. So we try to keep it fun. So throughout all of ABA, we also use those verbal behavior skills that we talked about last week. So just as a quick refresher, some of those skills are manding, which is requesting, tact, which is a label. So what is it? Pencil. That's a tact. An echoic is an echo. So say boy, boy. An intraverbal skill is a conversation. So that would be like, what's your name? My name's Brittany. So that would be an example of an intraverbal. We can use these skills to be taught in DTT. We can use them in natural environment training and during pairing. So honestly, verbal behavior is a huge part of what you will see at ABA. Behavior management and behavioral change. Again, this is where we change socially significant behaviors. Now, what a socially significant behavior is a behavior that is important to you. If you think it needs to be changed, then we will work on it to change it. It's also behaviors that can cause injury to themselves or others, that cause interference with their learning or others' learning. And there are a few other criteria behind that, but generally those are the ones that we look at. When changing behavior, we try to find a replacement behavior that serves the same function as the behavior. So by function, what I mean is if a child is smacking you to gain your attention, we know the function of that behavior is attention. Therefore, we want to teach the child an appropriate way of gaining your attention. So not only are we trying to decrease the hitting behavior, we're trying to teach a new behavior such as tapping on the shoulder or saying, hey, mommy, something of that nature. We also, before anybody does a behavior change, they're going to have to complete a functional behavior assessment to determine what behavior is or why it's occurring. If that isn't done, we could potentially cause the behavior to increase because we are not giving the child, we're not treating the behavior for the correct reason. So let's say your child is throwing something to get away from the table. And if they're doing that, we call that escape. And if, say, you decide to put your child in timeout, and then all of a sudden you realize he's throwing things more often, that means that you have what we say is reinforce that behavior. So now every time he's going to throw something just to leave the table. So we have to make sure that we know the right function of the behavior before we can change it. So again, like I said, behaviors that are changed are those socially significant behaviors. Those are ones that are important to you. And also those will cover like the aggression and self-injury. And another example, personally for me, one thing that we're dealing with is my child perseverates, which means repeats things a lot. So I'll give you an example. On Sunday, I took some data on my child. He is looking for me to tell him when to flush the toilet. And I decided that I was not going to give him that cue. So I sat in the bathroom with him for 15 minutes. And I had one of those handy dandy little clickers. And every time he said, I need to go ahead and flush the potty, I clicked my clicker. Within 15 minutes, he had said, I need to go ahead and flush the potty 71 times. So for me, that is a significant behavior that I want changed, because saying something 71 times is a little much. And it can wear thin on any parent's nerves, because I know it sure got to mine. And always just remember, if you're wanting a behavior changed, it needs to be important to you and your family. It doesn't matter if I care that it's important or if your BCBA thinks it's important. What really matters is, do you think it's important? You are your child's voice. You are the one that lives with this child, and you are the one who knows him better than him or her better than anybody else. So ABA is a lot to do with data. There's this saying that says a therapy or a intervention could be the best intervention in the world, but if there's no data to back it, then how can you say it was ever even done? So everything that we do with ABA has data. Data is absolutely vital to ABA. I mean, it'll tell you why a behavior is occurring. It can tell you if the behavior has changed. It could tell you how often it occurs or when it occurs. It tells us, is the intervention even effective? And also, is the child's behavior or the skill increasing or decreasing? Data is the lifeblood of ABA. And you can take data at home. So if you guys are ever interested in learning different ways to take data, please let me know, and I will definitely get on here and teach a lesson on ways to take data at home. Also during ABA, there will be things that you could hear about assessments. I did just briefly discuss what a functional behavior assessment was. That again, it goes over the reason for the behavior. So is the child trying to gain attention? Is he trying to get away from something? Is the child doing it because it's sensory? Or are they doing it because maybe they're in pain? Those are different things that we got to look at. So we can do that with several different types of assessments. One is called a functional assessment screening tool. That one is an interview. So your therapist would go over that with you and try to determine from the interview what could the possible function of that behavior be. There's also a way to do it called ABC data. ABC data is antecedent, behavior, consequence. The antecedent is what happens prior to the behavior. The behavior is the actual behavior itself. And the consequence isn't necessarily like, was the child punished or what we did because they did the behavior. The consequence is just literally what happened after the behavior occurred. Some people prefer to call this a postcedent because we don't technically incorporate a actual consequence. There's also a different type of assessment called a functional analysis. This is an experiment in a way. The BCBA will set up the environment to try to get the child to behave in the way that was described. They'll be set up into 4 different areas. So one section is going to be that attention. They're also going to look for an escape or demand for that sensory section, and also a control, which is going to be free play. And using this is going to be the best way to determine the function of the behavior. However, it's very long and it can be very hard on the child. And as for every single type of assessment you will do, ensure that your clinician has you sign a consent. You want to make sure you fully understand anything that is going to be happening with your child. And you want to also know that they are going to take responsibility if something were to happen. Another type of assessment, and there are a lot of assessments out there, folks, but I'm only going to cover 2 big ones. Another one is called the Verbal Behavior Milestone Assessment and Placement Program, also known as the VB map. Let me grab it for you guys. This is the VB map. It is a massive assessment. It has 72 pages. They probably won't use all of it in one go, but this one is to gauge the child's language and social skills, and look at other related skills to those. If you guys are interested, I have a link to a video that can cover the VB map, and it has a lot more detail to it. So let me copy and paste that for you guys, and I will put it here in the comments. Oh, sorry folks, I'm hitting the wrong button. And that's the link to the VB map training if you guys are interested. So to continue on, ABA does not stop at the clinic. ABA needs to go home with your child. So if you don't know what you should do at home, ask. You could keep taking data on behaviors that you're concerned about. Again, if you don't know how to take that data, let me know, and I'll give you a quick lesson on how to take duration, or how to take a frequency count, or even I can give you guys documents on how to take ABC data. So if you want, let me know, and I will definitely send stuff to you guys. One big thing I always recommend is do your research. There are a lot of things out there that are advertised to families like ours with children with autism that seem like it's the miracle cure. And honestly, most of the things that you're going to see are too good to be true. So make sure you do your research. Make sure whatever it is evidence-based, has research to back it up, and a big one is, can the can it be replicated? If nobody's been able to replicate it, then how do we know it was actually effective? So it's really important to do your research. Another big thing that I would recommend to families is to keep your ABA records up to date, your own personal ones up to date. You never know when you guys might move, or especially my family, we're a military family, so we move a lot. You also may not know if you have an IEP meeting coming up and you want that information to help with your IEP meeting. Also, you could be changing therapists or changing clinics. So having that information for your own personal use is very important. I would definitely keep that up to date and with you in a place that you can access it. Sorry, y'all. So kind of final things I'd like to go over with everybody today are what I labeled as from one parent to another. As I've shared before, my son is autistic. So while he's still young and I have not experienced everything there is that comes with this diagnosis, I have seen things and I have experience. So if you guys ever need somebody to talk to or just to reach out to, my Facebook page is available. You can message me privately on my personal Facebook page, Brittany Ditto, or you could email me at dittoremotecoaching@gmail.com, and I will gladly help you guys out. So a couple things I'd like to talk about is when you first drop your child off at the clinic, they're probably going to cry, especially if they're young and this is new to them. And crying is okay. I know I wanted to cry when I dropped my son off for the first time. It's because children that age go through separation anxiety. They've probably not been away from you or your husband or your wife, and it's hard for them. So probably for the first 2 weeks, they're going to be crying when you drop them off. But most of the time, I know my son's therapist has sent me pictures of him smiling and laughing 5 minutes after I walk out the door. So generally, they're okay. Now, one thing I would like to point out that is after about a month or more, if your child is still crying every time you drop them off, you may want to stop and have a conversation with your therapist or your BCBA and try to figure out what's going on. That would just be my personal opinion. Also, ABA is a lot of work for your child. They're going to probably be exhausted by the time they get home, and everything they do in ABA is probably going to be new. So it's going to be hard on them. And one thing I also like to say is everybody is really hoping for a miracle when they start ABA. And the big thing that everybody needs to remember is change doesn't happen overnight. I know from my family, and again, my family is not every family. My son was in ABA for over a year before he spoke his first words. Some families experience their children speaking sooner. Some families, unfortunately, may not experience their child speaking. But it's just, you will see progress. It'll be slow at first, but you will see progress. So don't give up hope just because your child isn't speaking. Doesn't mean that they're not learning. And one big thing that I wish I would have known before we started ABA, sometimes behavior gets worse before it gets better. You can see things like what we call extinction bursts. This is when we're trying to stop a behavior from happening so we don't reinforce a behavior. So let's say that you're trying to get your child to stop smacking you in the arm, so you ignore them. Sometimes that behavior is going to get worse before it gets better, and then eventually it'll stop. So just know to look out for that. It goes up before it goes down. It's like a roller coaster. One thing I would say as a parent to other parents is trust your gut. If something doesn't feel right, smell right, sound right, then you need to speak up, because you are your child's voice. And it's okay to take your child out of a clinic or have them placed with a new therapist at any time. That's your right. Nobody can tell you no. And again, like I said, it's okay if ABA or a therapist or a clinic isn't right for your family. Sometimes they just don't mesh, and sometimes ABA just isn't the right therapy for your child. And if you feel that it's not working, like I said, speak up, say something. One thing that I also wish that people would have told me is that it's okay to feel angry or upset, frustrated, excited. There are so many emotions that come with learning that your child has autism. And a lot of people will say that you're going through a grieving process. But anyway, what I was saying is that a lot of times you'll go through a grieving process. I know I did. And it's not a typical cycle where it'll just end like after you hit that acceptance. At least for me, it felt like a pinball machine. I was bouncing around. One day I was happy, one day I was sad. Excuse me, folks, I just ran and I'm not very in good shape. But anyway, so another thing I would say is don't isolate yourselves. Reach out to other families and know that there's no shame in having a child with autism. If somebody tells you that there's something wrong with your child, that's not a person you want in your life or your child's life. Just plain and simple. Another thing I would say, know your limits. My limits are running, apparently. If you need help, ask for it. If you don't know how to handle a situation, or your child is just getting on that last bit of nerve that you have, it's okay to ask for help, for somebody to come help you out. Nobody will judge you for that. Also, no two families' journey is the same. What happens in my home with my child is not going to be the same as what happens with your child and at your home. So don't compare families, because it'll just stress you out and it's not worth it. And like I keep saying, you are your child's voice. Always remember that if you feel like you need to speak up for your child, do it. Sorry, folks. Catch my breath a little bit. So I just also wanted to say that there are going to be days that you are going to feel like the worst person in the world. You're not. This diagnosis comes with challenges, but it also comes with things that people with neurotypical children don't get to see. And what I mean by that is with milestones with our children. With neurotypical children, we generally take for granted when they start talking, when they start walking. And it's just what happens, what's supposed to happen. Brendan, you want to say hi?
Hi.
But with a child with a special need, every milestone is a celebration. You feel amazing. Your family feels amazing. And it really is a reason to rejoice. So as hard as it is some days, just hold on to those times where you know that your child has met that milestone. They have succeeded where people have probably told you before they would never do it. There were times that we thought our son would never speak. And now I can't get him to shut up. Plain and simple. So just don't give up hope. That's the big thing. Find relief in whatever it is, whether it's religion or other people or science, whatever it is that helps you get through it, then that's the way to get through. Like you said, reach out to people and don't be afraid to ask questions. I've got here some helpful links if you guys want to check those out. I will go ahead and copy and paste those into the link below. And so these are a whole bunch, some of them are videos you guys can watch. They are different resources that I use to create this training, and they're also just good things to know. So that is it for my training today. I apologize, guys, for first of all my internet going out and then the bus showing up. You know, it's the life of a mother. You never know what's going to happen in your own home. Just goes to show you that I'm a real person and I got real things to deal with. You guys like what you saw in today's video? Go ahead and share that with everybody. And also, if you know of anybody who would benefit from this information, go ahead and send them my way to Ditto Remote Coaching Services. Thank you guys for joining, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's session. Have a wonderful night.